Okay, today we're going to work with a technique that is called completing the square. And what you're going to be doing is turning quadratics into perfect squares so that they are easier to factor and the equations are easier to solve. So, like I said, this technique is called completing the square. The first part of the assignment today, you're going to be asked what value completes the square. So let's say you're given something like x squared minus x plus, and there's a blank there. Now what you're going to do is fill in this blank so that this trinomial becomes a perfect square. And the way that you do that is you take b, the b value, you divide it by 2, and you square it. So what goes in here is b divided by 2 squared. So in this case, the b value is -1. So what's going to go in this blank is -1 over 2 squared. You can type it into your calculator if you want. You can type 1/2 negative, type x squared, you get 0.25. You can go second fraction, and this is equal to 1/4. All right, so in order to complete this square, you would put a 1/4 in this box. If you had something like x squared plus 20x plus blank, and you're asked what value completes the square, well, you take half of b and you square it. So in this case, you would take 20 over 2 and square it. 20 divided by 2 equals 10, and 10 squared equals 100. So to complete this square, you would insert 100. Get the idea? If you have x squared plus 4x plus, again, you take b, which in this case is 4, divided by 2, you square it. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is equal to 4. So a 4 completes this square. Any questions there? Now, you're going to use that technique in order to find or to solve each quadratic. So let's say you're given x squared minus 12x plus 7. And it's equal to 0. The first thing that you want to do is you want to get all the variables on the left-hand side. All right? And in order to get all variables on the left, you subtract 7 from each side. Now, here's what falls down. Your x squared minus your 12x. Leave this space in here. Set it equal to the negative 7. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square on the left-hand side. All right? We're going to take half of negative 12, or we're going to take negative 12. We're going to divide it by 2, and we're going to square it. Negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. Squared is 36. Now, pay attention. We're going to take this 36. We're going to add 36 here. And we're going to add 36 here. In order to keep this equation balanced, you have to add the 36 to both sides. Now you've got a perfect square on the left-hand side. The factors of this perfect square are x minus 6 squared. And that x minus 6 squared is equal to negative 7 plus 36 is 29. Now, this is what's going to happen every time. This b divided by 2, right here, this negative 6, b divided by 2 is always going to be the factor that goes in these parentheses. Okay? Those two are always going to be the same. Now, we can solve this equation by square rooting both sides. The square root of x minus 6 squared is just x minus 6. And we're going to go with positive or negative square root of 29. And we're going to add 6 to each side. And our x is equal to positive 6 plus or minus the square root of 29. And that is it in simplest form. So let's do another one of those. Let's take x squared. It's minus 2x. I'm going to leave a space in here, put the equal sign a little further to the right. This equation is already equal to 5. All right, so we're going to complete the square. We're going to take negative 2, divide it by 2, and we're going to square it. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, and negative 1 squared is equal to 1. So we're going to add 1 to the left side to make this a perfect square, and then we're going to add 1 to the right side. We're going to factor the perfect square trinomial, and it factors to x minus 1 squared equal to 6. And again, this is the same as this. b divided by 2 is the factor that factors the perfect square. Gonna square root both sides. So x minus 1 is equal to positive or negative radical 6. and then add 1 to each side. So x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 6. All right, so let's do one more. Let's do x squared plus 12 equal to 10x. All right, so remember we said earlier, get all the variables on one side, constants on the other. So I'm going to subtract 12 from each side and then add 10x. I'm sorry, subtract 10x. So on the left-hand side, we get x squared minus 10x equal to negative 12. We're going to take b, negative 10, divide it by 2, and square it, which is negative 5 squared is 25. So add 25 to each side. Factor the left-hand side. So it's x minus 5 squared equal to negative 12 plus 25 is 13. Find the square root of each side. So x minus 5 is equal to positive or negative radical 13. And then add 5 to each side. So our x is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 13. All right, so any questions on either of those techniques? All right, then your practice for today is going to be on page 237, 28 through 40, and you can do the even.